Hello, and thank you for that super warm welcome.
Oh, so happy to have you here. So you're going to take us on a thriving workshop. So I will pass it over to you. I'm here if you need anything at any time.
Absolutely. So you should be able to see my beautiful screen right now. Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm going to minimize these little boxes out of my way. There we go. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it likely is. For being here, for being present, for participating in this series, and for participating especially in the next 30 minutes with me. So how are you going to get the most bang for your buck out of our session, out of any session that you're attending during this Diversity Reboot series is be all in. Be all in. And what do I mean by that? Do your best to eliminate distractions. So I know you've got other tabs open right now. Close them, silence your phone, maybe get out a pen, a piece of paper if you want to take some notes. But the more you put into today's chat, today's presentation, the more you are going to walk away with. If you have questions that come up, please ask those throughout. I'm happy to be interrupted to answer them or to get to them at the end, whatever works. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, being that we're talking all about this incredible topic, go from survive to thrive, we're talking about mental health. Let's start by taking 3 deep grounding breaths. I will talk you through this. What we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes and we're going to take a deep breath in for 4. We're going to hold at the top for 4, and then we are going to release it out for 6. We're going to get rid of any stuck energy, any stuck stuff in there, and we're just going to get into the zone of really wanting to receive the following information. So here we go. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top and release it. Okay, let's do that again. Deep breath in, hold at the top, and release. And we'll do one more of those. Deep breath in for 4. Hold it at the top and let it all out. All right, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Hopefully you are really engaged, really ready for the following 28-ish minutes or so. And we're gonna go ahead and dive in. All right, so as Hunter said, my name is Marisa Lonic. I'm the founder of an organization called Mama Work It. I'm an author, podcast host, coach, and mom of 4. And our objectives in today's chat are this. So we are going to identify what it feels like when you're surviving versus when you are thriving. And we've all probably been in both of these places before. We're going to discover what's in what I like to call your thriving toolkit and how to use it. We are going to exercise proactive ways to build up resilience so that even when we're thrown into survival type of situations, which it's inevitable we will be, we know how to handle them to the best of our ability. And then hopefully we're going to feel really empowered after today's chat. We're going to feel empowered to control what we can and let go of what we can't. So hopefully that sounds good to you, just like what you signed up for that you were going to receive today. And I'm going to start with showing you this picture here. So when you see this picture, what stands out to you? What stands out to you? Now, there are basically 2 paths you can take if you're looking at this picture. There's the survive path and there's the thrive path. So let's go through those together. So their survive path sees things like this. They see a giant tsunami wave that could hit us at any minute. They see mosquitoes probably contracting something like dengue fever or malaria, or just like the sheer discomfort you feel when you get a bunch of mosquito bites, the itching, right? There's the temperature. So maybe this is a gorgeous setting, but can you even enjoy it if it's just too hot, too humid the whole time? Right? Your hair gets frizzy, your skin gets past that phase of attractive dewiness. No, you're just sweating. Like it is not pretty. So when you're in survive mode, you tend to see things with this lens. So now we're going to put on our thrive mode glasses, and we're going to view this from a very different perspective. That's much, much different. So instead of humidity, instead of the stagnant air, we feel the breeze, we feel the vitamin D just like seeping into our skin, right? All that sunshine, all that goodness. Maybe we can even envision ourselves floating in this pool of beautiful, calm water, maybe with our best friend, maybe with our partner, in those little donut floats there that you see, just letting the waves kind of just take us where they take us. It's all good. And maybe we can just see these most like breathtaking sunset views from the cliffside here. The best views, like no iPhone camera, not even the most recent best one could capture. So it's a pretty different way to see the same exact scene when you're in survive mode versus when you're in thrive mode. So what happens when you find yourself so often in survival mode, right? Consistently there. Well, there are consequences. And this, by all means, it's not a comprehensive list, but it's what I hear, it's what I've personally felt before. And as we go down this list, I want to encourage you to maybe like take a little tally mark. Take a little tally mark on a piece of paper in front of you and just take note, am I feeling this right now? Have I felt this before? And just kind of see like what's resonating with you. So, fatigue. Maybe you are like chronically exhausted and you either feel it or you don't even sit down long enough to feel it because you're afraid if you put your feet up in the middle of the day, you might not be able to get back up. Resentment. You're always kind of feeling a little bit upset because maybe you feel like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders and your partner or all the people on the highlight reel you see on social media, like they seem like they don't, and you're carrying this burden. So maybe that makes you feel a little bit more resentful. Stress. Maybe you're on edge a lot, like you snap easily, your patience is almost non existent, you feel stressed, overwhelmed. You feel like you are just so busy all the time. And then the end of the day comes and you think about what you did and you feel like you got nothing done that you actually intended to do. That's a really tough feeling to be in. Anxiety, it's really hard to just relax your mind and slow down. It's going like 100 miles an hour and you just can't get it to stop or sit still. Burnout. Ooh, burnout. You are just like so done. I'm sure you have felt a day like that. I know I have. Maybe you just want to kind of like sit in a dark room, watch some bad reality TV, just forget about all your responsibilities. It's not a fun place to be. Unhappiness or unfulfillment. Maybe you're checking the boxes, like you've done the things you want to do, or you're here, but something's missing, something's off. Or maybe there are plenty of things that you want to do, but you're not sure how to make them happen. You feel kind of stuck. Busyness. Ooh, I love this one because I hear this a lot. So maybe the people are asking you when they see you in small talk, like, "Hey, how you doing?" And your answer isn't necessarily good or fine. It's busy. I'm so busy. You're wearing the busy badge of honor. So maybe you feel perpetually busy all the time and like you can't just sit still for a second. And then finally, losing touch with friends, losing touch with um, colleagues, past relationships, maybe losing touch with yourself, your identity, your interests in the current season that you're in. So take a look at your tally marks. How many do you have there? What's standing out to you? What feels like maybe you're in survival mode right now and it's manifesting in one of these ways? Now, on the flip side, when you're thriving, we tend to feel these kind of things, right? We're motivated. We don't feel stuck. We know what we want and we're going to go after it. We have more energy. We don't feel tired as soon as we wake up. We're rested. We're excited for the day ahead. Happier. Our perspective on things is different. Like we saw in that first photo, we're grateful. We're enamored by life rather than feeling worried for all these potential things that might cross our path. We are overall more productive. So we've got more energy, we've got more motivation, so we get more done. Empowered, we feel strong, we feel confident. We're not afraid to try new things because of it. Fulfilled, we are grateful, our cup is full, we're feeling good about where we're at right now. And I want to point out you can absolutely feel grateful and feel fulfilled and still want more, still be working toward goals, toward achievements that you want to do. People tend to confuse that. They feel like, oh, if I'm fulfilled, I'm good. There's nothing else I want out of life. No, you can absolutely feel both simultaneously. Connected. We have special relationships, special people in our lives who get us, who we feel safe talking with, who we laugh with, who we enjoy life with on deeper levels, not just superficial ones. Calm. Overall, we're just calmer, right? And this does not mean by any means that we don't have our moments where we might lose it a bit. I definitely have my moments where I lose it a bit. Mom of four right here. So I have my moments, especially getting out the door to get ready for school, telling my kids to put on their shoes like 12 times happens, might lose it a bit. But overall, pretty calm, right? Pretty calm, not worrying 24/7, not feeling any of those things kind of that we talked about earlier. And then proud of today, excited about tomorrow. So you're ending your day with pride, with a sense of accomplishment, and you're waking up with excitement, with motivation for what you're going to experience that day. So, how do I know all this? Well, let me share a little story with you about that time I was in survival mode. This is just one example of a time I was in survival mode, but I'm going to share this particular story with you because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of you here. A lot of us lived through a very similar year of 2020 of chaos happening in our lives, things kind of falling apart. So let me share my survival mode story with you. So at the start of 2020, I was nearing the end of my third and final maternity leave. I was a corporate leader. I'd climbed the ladder. I was getting ready to go back to work. I loved what I did. And I was also running my business, Mama Work It. I had started that back in 2018. And I was gearing up to go back to work, but I knew I didn't want to return to my previous work schedule, right? Because that involved me commuting 3 hours a day. And I wanted to be able to thrive at work, to thrive at home. And I knew going back to work now, 4 young kids at home, I needed something to change for me. And what I thought that something was at the time was my commute. So I negotiated a different schedule, a more manageable schedule that would allow me to work from home, still maintain my work while having more hours at home to juggle, mom life, grow my business, all the things I was passionate about. And what happened? What happened? A month after I got back to work, I felt like I was getting a handle on things, the new normal for me. The world was hit with the global pandemic. And so we all start working from home. Wasn't really too upset about that. But what also happened is I lost my whole support system. And I know you know what that feels like because you likely experienced the same thing, right? So lost my childcare, lost in-person school for 3 of my kids, even lost the fun things I used to do at work because our industry was in such a crisis mode. I felt like my job just became, putting out fires one day after the next. So at this point, I'm juggling the roles of like corporate employee, corporate leader, stay at home mom, wife to an essential worker, because my husband didn't work from home, entrepreneur, involuntary homeschool teacher, camp counselor, chef, you name it. I was in survival mode. Okay. And until I started implementing some changes into my own self, I was easily going to stay there. I was easily going to stay there because we all know those 2 weeks they said this was going to be turns into a lot longer than that. So I knew I could not be the professional I needed and wanted to be, the mom I wanted to be, the wife I wanted to be, the human being I wanted to be if I didn't propel myself into thrive mode. So today we're going to talk about your thriving toolkit so that if you are finding yourself in a space where you feel any of those survival mode symptoms, or even if you don't, if you want to just build up that proactive resilience, like we said, you can implement these really simple strategies to turn on your thrive mode, be able to handle anything with ease. By the way, this photo is actually me on a Skype call during that time. Bad internet connection because everybody in my house was also doing like internet connection for school and this and that. So true story here, even the visual. All right. So sorry. There we go. All right. So what's in your thriving toolkit? These are the 4 pillars that I like to say are in the Thriving Toolkit that I've developed. So first thing we've got is mindset. We are going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about simple ways to reframe things in our head so we can show up more like the people we want to be. Next, we are going to talk about self-care, and we're going to dissect the different ways this can look like in our lives and why it is so essential to practice it. Then we're going to touch upon self-awareness and why knowing who you are only makes you that much better at doing life with yourself and with others. And finally, we're going to dive quickly into communication because this is such an important part of our day to day from a work perspective, from a home perspective, from a going to the grocery store perspective. Communication is really the common denominator and we use it everywhere. So let's go ahead and dive into these 4 tools. Again, I'm going to plug here, take notes of anything that resonates with you, because you may want to implement things right away after today's chat, but you may also want to reflect. You may want to come back to it in a week or 2 weeks or a month from now. And I guarantee you are going to do better at remembering, at reinforcing this if you simply just take a quick note and write it down. So there's my plug. All right. So let's get started with mindset. So first question here is, what percentage of your success do you think comes from your mindset? What percentage of your success do you think comes from your mindset? Now, in the effort to keep us rolling with our 30-minute time here, I'm going to let you know it's 80 to 95%. Your mindset is responsible for 80 to 95% of your success. The rest, the 5 to 20, is skill dependent. Now, this number varies just depending on which study you follow and kind of which site you get your information from, but nonetheless, 80 to 95% is a big deal. So we're starting with mindset because it's such a crucial piece of this. Now, having a positive mindset does not mean you need to be positive all the time. Okay, you do not need to be positive all the time in order to have a positive mindset. You are allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to have moments where you feel things other than positive feelings. Because bad days, they happened before and they're going to continue to happen. They're going to find us, right? Whether we're in survival mode or whether we're in thrive mode. Because life ebbs and flows, and just some days are going to be better than others. So for anyone who believes having a positive mindset must mean, oh, I got to be positive all the time, that's just not true. What is true is that you recognize in situations that might be hard, that might feel challenging, that might be surprising in not a way that you want it to be surprising, that there's always a reason. There's always something you can draw from. There's a silver lining. There's something that can bring you to a better headspace. And a simple way to do this is to replace the words have to with get to. So let's exemplify this for a minute. So if you say to yourself, I have to work on this project, that sort of insinuates some negative feeling for that, right? Like, oh, I have to do this. This work is not what I would love to be doing. It doesn't feel fun. It feels long. It feels boring. It's something I have to do. I'm obligated to do. And that tells your mindset this is not something fun or great or exciting or fill in the blank, right? And so remember, 80 to 95% success, right, is your mindset. So now if we flip the script on this, if we change the have to get to, things change. So now when you say, I get to work on this project, what comes up for you? What comes up for you? Well, maybe you feel like, yeah, I'm a valuable resource. I was selected to work on this project instead of others. My teammates value my opinion. My experience brings really great stuff to this project. Whatever comes to mind for you, it shifts your perspective quite a bit. So the more you practice doing this, the more habitual this is going to feel. And the more habitual it feels, the more it's just going to feel like life to you. And you're going to be walking through it before you know it with a mindset that is going to help you tremendously, even through challenging times. So our first thriving toolkit item is mindset. And now we are going to move on to our second. So our second is self-care. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So when you think of the words self-care, what comes up for you? What do you think of? What is your imagine? Where does your imagination take you? When I asked people this question during these types of presentations or just in person, whomever, what I often hear is a series of luxurious things we are rarely doing for ourselves. I hear things like a day at the spa, a vacation, getting nails, getting hair, getting massage, any of those things. And while these things can absolutely count as self care, they're not the only forms of self care out there. In fact, they're far from it. So I'd even argue if these are things you're not doing for yourself frequently, like even daily, and who's getting daily massages or going on vacation every day, probably not even your nails every day, like that probably shouldn't be the first thing that you think of. Why? Because when you close your eyes and you imagine your self-care as a Caribbean vacation, as, getting a luxurious day at the spa, whatever that is, it feels unattainable. It feels far away. It feels like it happens far too infrequently than you need it to. So, self-care, it looks different to different people on different days, in different seasons, maybe even at different times of day. I want you to think about that for a minute. So think about a season where your self-care included, maybe reading a ton. But right now in this season, your self-care looks different. Maybe you enjoy more walking outside in nature or meditating. It can look different. It can change with seasons. It can change as you grow and evolve as a person. It can even change for different days of the week or different times of day. I typically love exercising in the morning. That's a real form of self care to me. Lately, I've been doing some afternoon walks outside or runs outside because the weather's been so great. But if you knocked on my door at 9 p.m. and you said, Marissa, let's hit the gym, that would not feel like self care to me. That would not feel like self care at 9 p.m. That's not what I would fill in my self care at that time of day. So I want you to remember that self care is really whatever makes you feel whole again in that moment. There's no textbook definition for this. I would really highly encourage you to think of all the things that make you feel good, that make you feel fulfilled. Is it reading? Is it decluttering or organizing your closet? Is it journaling? Is it creative writing? Is it going for a run or a walk? Is it meditating? Whatever it is, the important thing is that after you do it, you feel refreshed. You feel refreshed. It brings you joy. It fills your cup, makes you feel whole again. Because the truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you imagine that every day you wake up and you have this cup of water in front of you, and with each thing that you do for anyone else around you, you pour out a little bit of that water. So, helping a colleague with a project, pour a little bit out. Helping your kids get their lunches packed or breakfast in the morning, pour a little bit out. Helping your spouse or your partner with something, pour a little bit out. Anything that you're doing, if you're not replenishing that cup of water proactively, what's going to happen? It's going to empty, it's going to dry out. And then you're going to be pouring just little drips that are left at the end, and it's not going to be your best self. It's going to be only what you have left to give, which may end up being nothing. And that's going to lead to those survival mode symptoms that we sort of talked about before. So, self-care, think outside the box of what this is to you and make sure that you're practicing it on a regular basis. All right, let's move on to self-awareness. You need to get to know you, like you are the real MVP here in this lifetime. So, how do you do that? A really practical way, take an assessment. There are so many options out there. These are just a few that come to mind, but there's tons and tons. If you Google self assessments, tons are going to come up. So, just to exemplify what I have here, there's the DISC. If you've ever heard of that, it stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance, and just gives you kind of an overview of where you land in all those areas of life. There's the Enneagram, which is a 9 number personality assessment. There are the love languages that you take with your significant other if you're in a relationship, and it helps you understand how you like to receive and how your partner likes to receive love and appreciation. And then there are the languages of appreciation, which are Also, similar to the love languages, but for your workplace, for your colleagues, for your team. So these are just some examples of ones that you can find. But again, a ton of them out there. Google it. They take 10 to 15 minutes, maybe max, maybe 20, I guess, if you find a more lengthy one. Some of them are even free. And they're just incredible ways to get to know yourself better. Because knowing yourself better, it helps you know how to take care of yourself better, helps you communicate better, helps you show up in the best possible way when you're hit with things that you weren't expecting. It helps you stay in thrive mode. All right, so our last item in the thriving toolkit is communication. So I want to recognize that communication can be hard, especially with those we're closest to. You want to know why that is? Because we expect that they should be able to read our mind. We expect that they should know what we need without even asking for it, right? Think about it. Think about it. Think about times when, you leave something like a laundry basket with clean clothes on the bottom step of your home. And whether that's your partner, whether that's your roommate, whether that's your kid, whoever you live with, keeps walking past it over and over again. And you haven't communicated that you would like for them to bring that laundry basket upstairs or to help fold the clothes or whatever it is. And they don't do it. And you start to get angry about it. Something starts to kind of muster up inside you where you feel like they're doing it on purpose. But let me remind you, you haven't even asked for what you need. So chances are they haven't noticed it or they have no clue you're expecting them to take it upon themselves to fold those clothes or to bring that basket upstairs. So you can't expect someone to read your mind, right? Stop expecting that no matter how close you are to them, how many years you've known each other, what your expectations are. If you haven't communicated what you need in a clear way, you cannot expect them to deliver what you're asking. Because let me remind you, you haven't really asked for it. So, quick question when it comes to nonverbal communication, because I think this statistic is so fascinating. Nonverbal communication is all the communication we do minus the words that we speak. Okay, so this is like our tone of voice, our body language, our eye contact, all these sort of things, like how we're actively listening in that conversation, all those things. How much of a percentage do you think this is in how we communicate? How much of a percentage is our nonverbal communication and how we communicate? If you're like me, you're going to be shocked when you hear this statistic. It's 93%. 93% is reliant on all those other factors. So when you're in survival mode, right, and you're feeling those feels, those consequences potentially that we talked about earlier, it's going to be very hard to communicate in a really loving, sweet, nice way, potentially, if you're feeling resentful or you're feeling exhausted or you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling unhappy or any of those things. So keep that in mind because it's going to come out even if we're speaking kind words in our body language and in all of those situations. We have got some things coming in the chat here. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let's keep going here. I'm going to teach you something super quick before we wrap up the communication, and that's called the I method, AYY. That stands for ask, why, and you. Okay. And this is a super clear way to communicate your needs effectively. Ask is ask clearly, specifically for what you need. Why stands for why you need it. Explain why it's important to you. And finally, the you stands for you. And when I say you, I mean the receiving party, like your audience in the situation, the person you're talking to, like what's in it for them? How will this affect them? So super simple way to communicate your needs there. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up here. So our 4 pillars in our thriving toolkit, just to recap, we've got mindset, we've got self-care, we've got self-awareness, and we've got communication. And these are all things you can be working toward proactively or if and when you find yourself in survival mode that you can tap into to help you get back to the thrive zone. So in conclusion, I just want to remind you, my friend, you are the only person out there who can make thrive happen. And while that might feel daunting to some, like, wow, weight of the world on my shoulders, I tend to look at this as so empowering. Empowering because the control remains with us, right? We get to make those decisions on what we do with our time, how we decide to look and use our mindset, how we decide to live our life. And if you're making the right choices in how you want to do those things, you will be able to thrive like all the time. So that's that. I want to thank you so much. I'm right at the 30-minute mark, so I don't want to take any more time here and get us off schedule. But this is where you can find me. This is my social media handle on Instagram where I hang out the most. But of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or any other platform that you can find me on. So I will stop my share and we'll wrap up.
Marissa, yes, let's be friends. That was so lovely. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
this. Thank you for taking me on that journey, giving me a healthy dose of serenity today. I really appreciate that.
You got it. Thanks.